as you probably have surmised by now, it's taken me a little while to figure out how to get ready to make a stream today, to make a podcast, to provide some content. And it's pause. I'm struggling with a sense of indifference right now, which I know is not right, but it's honest. There are obviously despicable things happening right now, which I can't even begin to understand what is. I don't have the words. I just don't have the words right now. I felt what compelled me to want to go from being someone who was working in the tech industry. This is Friday, March 6, 2026. To doing research, archival, and analysis was the underreporting, the lack of recognition of the fatal drug overdose epidemic in the United States of America. And that started, the awareness of that started in the early 2010s, okay? As our family was exposed to more drug addiction and the consequences of it. Not that we had a death in the family at that time, but we realized how serious the problem was, and we our then teenage son almost died of an overdose. Ultimately, yes, he did die as an adult, but we became aware of the severity of the problem. And why was it not being spoken about? And Massachusetts was one of the worst states initially. It's still bad, but it was one of the worst. And I mean, I'm totally not done up at all today. I'm just, whatever, out of bed, threw on some sunglasses to hold the hair back. And it was my motivation. It was my, inspiration. And I knew I was right. I knew that we were right as a family, and wondering why this was the case. I knew it had to be beyond money. There's just no way it's impossible to accept a problem so big is because somebody wants to make some extra money. People do things for money. People kill each other for money. Things have happened because of money and power. But there does come a point where it's like, okay, the proposition is so insane. If you were to tell someone, hey, you know what, would you run somebody off the road for $500 million? A stranger off the road. Some people would say, yeah. All right, some people would say, yeah. Most people would probably say no. Because they're like, look, yeah, that would make me worth $500 million, but I'm sorry, I won't do that. I'm not saying you can put a dollar amount on it, but you would expect, and I think it would be fair to expect, a fair number of people would say, yeah, $500 million, I'll run a stranger off the road. I'm not saying you should, but some people would say yes. Now, if you say, would you run a stranger off the road for $1? Almost no one will say yes. Maybe someone would. Most people wouldn't. So there's, and to think that, 100,000 deaths a year is because somebody wanted to make an extra few dollars on stock on a product they were selling anyway. It's insane. Anyways, getting a little bit too deep in the weeds on that, but I felt as though there needed to be more awareness and recognition of the problem, which caused me to dive into this. And eventually, in my pursuit of trying to understand why that wasn't being reported, because I knew it had something to do with money, I became aware of many other adventures or misadventures, agendas, big plans that were happening around the world, genetics, Human Genome Project, now even the possibility of multi-generational pursuits of understanding human evolution, and how these things tie into world geopolitics. There's a lot of things happening, okay? And I always try to keep myself grounded, though. Every once in a while, I have to remind myself, like, okay, so, yeah, I'm not talking today about the drug epidemic, but I'm trying to understand why it was ignored. Why was it allowed to happen? Who benefited from it? It was definitely far beyond money. And it's important to reground yourself. Otherwise, I'm just going to turn to another channel and not even, forget about why I was here in the first place. So now that this, and I hold a lot of criticism against most other, obviously, mainstream media, but also, sadly, possibly even more so, citizen media, citizen-based media, social media, and it's called citizen, but in reality, most people they're not really free. They're not really working independently because they do have the ability to voice this, and they choose not to. Instead, they choose, or to be more to the point, they are told to pursue the agenda of the day and to feed the noise of the day, and So COVID happened, or coronavirus pandemic happened, those several years, and then the drug problem got worse, and then it took me 3 or 4 years into it before I realized how the data was being used opportunistically, and it was most likely a blackout on talking about the drug epidemic, because those deaths mostly impact young people. And they provide this beautiful narrative of suggesting that it's because of a deadly novel virus, or a bad vaccine from the U.S. military or China or something that's causing all these deaths. So people are just not allowed to either talk about it, and if they can't even mention that many young people have died, it has to be done imprecisely, or the data has to be used for some other agenda. And most of these podcasts, and like this what you're watching is a podcast, but I'm not really a podcaster. I use it to be able to relay and convey my message and the work I've done to provide people updates and to provide some entertainment. And I know that the people who many people who provide some support to the channel enjoy or benefit having something to listen to other than many of those other said channels, which I didn't identify precisely, but you can fill in the blanks about which ones they are. So here we are now, and the United States is becoming involved, or there is now a combative environment. There's combat happening now. Is that war? Is that pre-war? Post-war? I don't know. I can't tell you these but there's definitely combat happening. I think for all we know, this could end tomorrow. This could have just ended 5 minutes ago. I don't know. And again, there is massive outcries right now with incredible precision regarding these conflicts. Suddenly there's people who didn't know anything. They couldn't even find Iran on a map, and now they're suddenly experts on everything geopolitical and everything about Iran. And the total number of deaths so far have been in the hundreds or maybe in the low thousands. And it's terrible. But at the same time, I'm dealing with this. Okay, so now it's another situation, yet again, of not talking about the drug epidemic in the United States. It's another one. And people will justify it, and then there'll be something else. And I'm realizing that in order to make a podcast that works by most people's definition of what these things are and gains an audience, I need to pursue the noise of the day, regardless of severity, and ignore the bigger things. There's no opportunity for a podcast or for a research channel that focuses and wants to stay on the greatest cause of death. There's no opportunity for that. I mean, you can make one, but you have to pay for it yourself, and maybe the bills can be partially offset by people who make contributions, at best. But there's no one will pay for it, which is really amazing. And so the economy right now is, that's the reality of the situation. I would either need to be disingenuous. It's like, okay, today we need to all focus on the Iranian ship that was blown up near India. It's a tragedy. Not that no one should talk. Of course, it should be discussed about. But that's the only thing. That's it. And everyone needs to know everything about it. And then they're going to, solve the problem by tweeting about it and complaining that other people aren't focusing on it. I don't believe that problem, though, could ever actually be resolved until people started off by focusing on problems with some order of priority that makes sense. People are constantly going to be in this hamster wheel unless the order of priority gets addressed. So I don't know how to address whatever is happening right now overseas. I don't know. I'm at a loss, and it probably does tie into the drug epidemic somehow. Not just shadowing it, but even being causal in some way. I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't know. I don't have much use. I don't know what to add to it. So, struggling with the indifference here. And I know that is in a time of war where we just had, there was a 20-year-old American from Iowa who died. And I'm like, if there's any time, people, my countrymen dying in a war, to not say indifference, it's now. And I can't criticize the United States government for its operations because I don't really understand them. I certainly know that what's being spoken about right now as the main motivation for these military operations is not the real motivation, but I don't know what it is. And sometimes, it would seem initially, right, that because if you don't believe in the stated cause, that you should just stop it. But just stopping it, well, what type of unintended reaction is that going to cause, right? If you just go into an old subway tunnel and be like, well, this beam looks rusty, it's in the way, I should just pull it out of the way. You have no idea what what is leaning on what. The United States not performing these military operations, well, that doesn't just mean everything is just rainbows and cotton candy. What was the alternative going to be? I don't know. So I don't feel comfortable in saying the U.S. should pause. I don't know. There's no, there's not enough information to base any judgment on anything right now. So it's very, very trying. So as far as understanding the motivation, the urgency, and then also, um, and it's taken an older person who's more mature in all of this, to simply not, to be, I don't know, a little bit more level headed, a little bit more cool. I couldn't have had this type of reaction, even just a few years ago. I would have just been just mad. Now I just don't know. And also, the older you get, the more you realize how the pursuit of the bad guy is ridiculous. The more you realize that, the world is full of scared people who are trying to understand life and are struggling to understand their own existence and their own value, who are all fighting for their own beliefs, right or wrong. Most people think they're doing things for the right cause, even though it winds up in people slaughtering each other. So, simply saying, we're good and they're bad, that's not helpful either. Boy, I feel like I'm adding nothing here right now, and I'm probably am offering nothing here right now. But it is important to, as you being my audience, for you to hear kind of what's going through my head at the moment. Anyways, I think I'm gonna do comments, and I don't know. This might be a short show, or I'm going to open up a tool and start working on a timeline using a product called Tiki Toki. It has to be one or the other. Yeah, it's okay to be down. It's okay to be down. I think it's good to everyone to show that right now. Instead of just being mad with absolute certainty about something else. I had an experience as a professional engineer where I've told this story before, being a 20 or 30-year-old story right now. I'll probably tell it a little bit differently every time. But I remember I was probably in the industry for 3 or 5 years at the time. I was software engineer, principal level. I made principal very early. I was very, very good as an engineer in device drivers. And defects would be filed against the products. Okay, things would fail in testing. Things would fail in the field. There would be a constant barrage of errors that would come in, and sometimes they would be things that were used, probably wasn't being used right. Sometimes it would experience an environment that it wasn't tested against. Sometimes it was a product failure. Sometimes you fix them. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you document it. But you always try to keep up with the bug count, the defect count, the queue. And somebody, I don't even remember if it came in from the field or if it came in from the laboratory. And, at the time I was busy, I felt overloaded, and I deflected it, probably prematurely, saying, this isn't my problem because obviously this couldn't be true, or whatever the case, right? And when you deflect something, that means that now somebody else needs to look at it. And somehow or another, I think it was someone who might have been a contractor in my team, got involved in one of the defects that were filed. I think I forget the details, okay? And I don't think the details matter too much in this case. But this other contractor, who was probably 25 years older than me at the time, decided to reopen the case or keep the case open, and then spend a whole lot more time digging into it than I did. And he waved his finger, not physically, but he criticized me a little bit. He said, Don't ever pass on a defect unless you've added something. Unless you provided some more insight. Otherwise, you're just wasting everybody's time. Have a full queue. Let the bugs pile up. How else are people going to know that they need to hire someone else in your unit to help you? So don't make noise about anything. Just shut up, right? Either shut up, don't pass it on, or add something to it. And when it comes to this Iran conflict right now, I don't have anything to add to it. And I'm amazed at how often other people, like within hours of another event, suddenly everyone's experts. Like, I don't understand. There's this Iranian military vessel that was shot. This is a narrative right now, a story by the U.S. military, U.S. Navy, and it could have happened exactly like it did. It probably did. I don't know. My point isn't to say that didn't happen. My point is to say that how is it that people who just a few weeks ago were suddenly experts on spike proteins are now able to navigate all of these databases regarding regarding military navigation in the seas and track and then find photos of people marching in parades and triangulate the exact. It's like, how did you become an expert on this? Like overnight. And now, because, these people are allegedly experts on this particular subject, we have to shut up about everything else. And it's just so it's difficult to constantly keep up with this churn, especially knowing that the churn of this news cycle is not really motivated by focusing on the most important problems at any one period of time. It's about keeping people just all over the place, keeping people scattered. And there is no way to ever gain subject matter expertise if the job is to keep people scattered, keep people confused. So I'm definitely rambling this morning. And again, I think it's good to hear, and I won't keep this episode online very long, how disorganized and, my thoughts are right now. And I think they should be. I think they should be. Why aren't more people feeling this way? Why is everyone suddenly having such certainty about certain things? I think my friend Jonathan Cooey, PhD, Giga Biological, we were having some chats this morning, and he shared with me about Representative Thomas Massie. And how Thomas Massie now is saying that the United States has been infiltrated, which it has in many extents, because Pam Bondi has $8 million related to protecting some pharmacy or something like that. And I haven't even looked into details. I don't even want to know details. But I'm thinking, really, $8 million? Now, I would love it. Suitcase of $8 million fell out of the sky right now. I would. First thing I would do is I'd buy John a house. I would, a decent house. He should be set up so that he could operate a little bit easier. We would pay off our debts, and I'd probably hire a staff member, and we would get to work. Okay. That would be nice. But $8 million, really? That $8 million? You're wasting my time talking about the United States goes $4.5 billion into additional debt a day. $8 million. Is that even 5 minutes of debt for additional debt for the United States government? $8 million? Really? So I am who I am, and you have my oath, you have my promise. I'm not going to bullshit you about having subject matter expertise on all sorts of different subjects that I barely understand, that sometimes I can't even pronounce right. More people should relay this to you. As it's just not possible. if there is any insight I can offer on Iran, okay, well, there's a few things. There's a few little details I can add. One is the Iranian Revolution that is tied to around between 1976 and 1979, and the rise of the Ayatollah Khomeini. That happened in the United States during a time when James Carter, was president, the man who from Georgia, who I don't think James Carter was a bad guy. This whole good guy, bad guy thing. I think people aren't thinking anymore at the moment they have to put people in the buckets like that. But I suspect that Carter was not a very strong president. Not that United States has had always strong, but so there's something about the staff and the energy that was around Carter that has remained within the United States and has been a big part of the United States really since then. I know Carter is 76, 80, it's almost 50 years ago, but the Carter administration involved, to some extent, it was some of the on-ramp of the Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton worked as a staffer, getting for the Democratic Party, getting Carter elected. I mean, hundreds of people did, so it's not like it was just Hillary. And then when it came time for for James Carter, when he was running, he became the first president that was endorsed by Hollywood and musicians. Hollywood and musicians, I'm sure, have played party favorites before James Carter. But if you get online, and this is one thing I'll recommend to you, start searching for musical artists and Carter, and you'll find everything from Cher to the Allman Brothers to eventually Michael Jackson, and a huge part of the Hollywood and music machine supported Carter in a way that it never really supported any president beforehand. I mean, it's been there, but it became Hollywood and the music industry became very partisan around then. So that's not to mean that Carter is just a musician's president, but I think it's a cultural inflection change that I've not really understood until now. And then now that you see all of these, the magazine editors, the Vogue editors, Michael Jackson, all of these other stories, so much a part of the news over the last 20, 30 years, relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, etc. I think it's a reflection on how involved Hollywood and the music industry has been in setting American culture. Someone named Andrew Breitbart has been quoted as saying politics is downstream from or culture is downstream from politics, or politics is downstream from culture, one or the other. But if you understand that culture was a big part of the Carter administration, I think a lot of these other there's a lot that can be extracted from that. Within the Carter administration was a man named, as a 20-year-old named Mark Weiner, whose daughter started a company with Candace Owens. Mark Weiner met Hillary Clinton in 1975-76. Mark Weiner of Rhode Island. He had another associate, Ira Magaziner, who went on to, during the Clinton administration, become the main one of the main policy writers for the Clinton Health Initiative, for the Hillary Clinton health care program. It wasn't successful, but much of that was documented then. And it's amazing that I've done at least, several dozen videos about this, maybe even 100, how little interest there is about the relationship of Candace Owens and what can be learned about Hollywood, Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, and the connection with not directly but indirectly through the Clintons, and then it goes back to the Carter administration. So there's something about the Carter administration and this linkage to Hollywood and movies. And now the Carter administration put Khomeini in power. No, but there's something about this correlation, and now here we are 50 years later. The United States is threatening to go into Iran, boots on the ground, I guess. The Khamenei was killed. He might have died of old age and just taking advantage of it. I don't know. There's a lot of weird coincidence here, and there's something to dig into. And I've not seen any interest by anyone in digging into it. I'm not saying it's the answer to the puzzle, but it's a powerful point of correlation. Now, another point of correlation, and again, I don't really understand what's going on here right now in Iran, is there is a big focus on China in Iran, okay? And China is alleged to get a big part of its energy from Iran, but it's not documented because I guess Iran is capable of cloaking 1 million barrels a day of oil going to China. They put it in container ships and they mislabel it. They turn off their detectors. And for China, this is about allegedly 10% of their energy consumption is from Iran. It's alleged that China is 80% of the oil exports from Iran, but nobody knows about it. I'm sorry, I find that hard to believe that we have a world where they can identify if Ayatollah Khamenei was killed, one very specific person, but we can't find 1 million barrels a day going to China from Iran? How is that even possible? It's not possible. So either it's allowed to happen, or it's not happening at all. Something weird is there. These are incongruent viewpoints. Which one is it? Also, the Chinese government has denied that it's making as many purchases, which is not a surprise. Of course, they would lie about such a thing if it did happen. But also, I think it's pretty well documented that China has been going gangbusters trying to build hydro and be prepared for not having access to oil overseas or from anywhere else. And I bring this up because, again, I don't fully understand what the hell is going on here. But China is the largest country in the world that does not allow Freemasonry to operate within its borders. And the year 1978-79, the nation of Iran put a halt on Freemasonry being able to operate within its borders. And matter of fact, much of the Middle East right now has various restrictions on Freemasonry being able to operate within their borders. India has no restriction on Freemasonry. There's a lot of lodges in India. They go back hundreds of years, just saying. And I'm starting to sense right now in media, and if you're open to it, you'll see it, a growing openness to the possibility that Islam is bad. I'm not making a position on that. What I will say, though, is you're starting to see the door open to this accepted criticism of Islam. At first, I thought it was about division. Now there's something else, because a lot of the Islamic countries tend to be tend to have restrictions on Freemasonry. Matter of fact, Freemasonry tends to be viewed unfavorably in many communist nations, and they include, guess what? Cuba and Venezuela. Well, the United States just went into Venezuela and hijacked its leader, or elected president. And then Cuba's weird because, well, guess what? Jesse Jackson, the aforementioned Mark Weiner of Rhode Island, and a variety of other people, even Meryl Nass, have spent time in Cuba. So I don't know what the hell's going on here. All right? I don't. I'm not going to pretend I have all this certainty, because I don't. But I will offer you this. Major problems are still not being tackled in any order of useful priority. It makes it difficult for myself, having gotten into this, because I was motivated by the under-recognition of the drug epidemic, to be sincere and to be motivated and to not be and to not be disinterested. And clearly, this is based upon where the views in the super chats seem to be going. This is not a criticism of my audience. This is a criticism of a lot of audience. The consumer of social media seems to accept this and even want this. There's no, right now, India says that there's the Israel-Iran war happening. Mainstream media in the United States says that Trump is at war with Iran. Conservative media right now is saying that it's the Iran-U.S. war against Iran. And the far-right media in the United States says it's World War Epstein, because Epstein has kitty photos of Trump and other people. So thanks to, shout out to Jonathan Cooey again, the personalization of the media feed, people see the media and the interpretation of what's going on that aligns with what they want. And people will throw their money, at whatever, I guess, meets their bias. And the fact that the role of India right now is getting almost no recognition at all in the United States. Like it's almost not even existed. It is shocking. At least right now, the United Nations Security Council is calling for India to finally get a seat. I'm not a big UN person, but for heaven's sake, India is massive. Why are they not part of the United Nations Security Council? That doesn't even make sense. Really? You look at some of these other tiny little countries that are on that Security Council, and India's not there? Are you kidding me? And anyone who thinks that, I'm just some rampant I'm not against India. Countries should get the success that they fight for and earn. Absolutely. If anything, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of nations which seem to be operating on more cylinders and operating more cohesively right now than my own country, the United States, is. That's really, to be totally transparent, that's what it is. I'm jealous. I'm like, boy, I want some of that. How do we get that here? I don't know. But anyways, we had India with Modi in Israel for days. And then no sooner Modi gets on a plane, goes back to India, and then the conflict starts. The missiles get launched. Now there's this sinking of the ship. I wouldn't even be surprised right now if this is an opportunity for Prime Minister Modi of India to get a lot of visibility as a successful peace dealer. Suddenly he's the guy who's going to broker the peace or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But it sure isn't being represented anywhere. It sure isn't about a weapon of mass destruction, I'll tell you that. And it sure isn't about, protecting protesters in Iran. That's not the truth. I don't know what it is. And it isn't because somebody has kitty photos on somebody else. I know that's not what it is either. I have no idea. Boy, talk about useless. But you know what? If you have an analyst, and this is what I've been, you pay your analyst for their opinion and for their time. And if they don't have something, the last thing you want is for them to give you guidance and encouragement on how to assess a situation if they don't have a useful position of any confidence. And also, for analysts, the amount of time that you have is, look, sometimes if you only have a little bit of time to make an assessment, it's what can you do except relay on the crap that other people have. So with that said, why isn't this computer on? This computer logged off. Give me a second here just to catch myself after that weird introduction to this weird show. Oh, boy. Mark Kulak, Houstonic.live, 9:17 a.m. I'm going to say hi to the chat when I come back in a minute. Reginald. India is extracting United States productivity and wealth via outsourcing. Well, yeah, it has. As the U.S. corporations have become global, these global corporations, it would make sense for them to hire the best talent at the lowest possible rate, which puts U.S. workers in a competitive situation against foreign workers based upon the strength of their own currency. Now, this has to be understood. Protectionism is it gets a bad rap, but different countries have different currencies, and if you want to have a world where there's not true, in this. Everyone says that they want that type of equality and openness, but you have to have those tough discussions, and people don't want to have those discussions. And in some cases, U.S. workers are lazy. That is the truth. So you don't want to reward that. But anyways, you know what we're talking about, Reginald. Microsoft has hired a ton of people in India, but many people in India consume Microsoft products, so it's fair. Hello, Garden Variety. I heard yesterday that Iran said that the Strait of Hormuz was open for India but closed to the United States. That would make sense. India has had a friendly relationship with Iran. It would be, and behind the scenes is the nuclear negotiations. I don't have hard evidence on this. I've suspected that Iran has. I mean, how would I know this, right? This is just. I'm just pulling this one out of the you know what, right? That Iran has a lot more energy than people know about. When you're playing cards, the capital that you have in playing cards is not merely having aces or a full house, or talking about poker. The capital that you have when you play cards is the unknowns. The only way that you can lure people to spend more money, to throw more money into the on the table in poker, is to have other people believe that they can beat you. Right? Now, I don't play poker because I have a bad poker face. But I understand what poker is about, I think. I don't know, maybe now that the more I appreciate what poker is and isn't, maybe if I tried it again, studying it scientifically, maybe I could be good at it, but but right now I would be very bad at it. But the way you win at poker is what people don't know, is the unknowns. So if Iran simply said, hey, we have the largest reserves or the second largest reserves, well, that's great. Well, that means that they don't have any more than that, right? So that they're holding an ace and a king or something, or two jacks. That they have a strong hand, and that's that. But I suspect India has access to a lot more, and shipping oil is very difficult. Shipping oil is very it's very visible, which is why I don't understand this rumor that Iran is shipping 1 million barrels a day or something obscene to China, and they're getting away with it. Having grown up in a city which was mostly industrial, having seen the impact of the loss of manufacturing in the United States, I'm talking about Bridgeport, Connecticut, also impacted Waterbury, Connecticut. I'm as predisposed to being mad about all the manufacturing that went to China as anybody else. But I'm also not mad at China for it, for doing, for being competitive. I'm mostly disappointed at how the United States handled it and how people within the United States sold out their own citizens. That's not really China's fault. That's America's fault for the way that happened. But that doesn't. But what I'm seeing right now, getting back to what I was trying to say, is there's a lot being put on China. China making secret oil deals. China. The other thing right now is there's the suggestion that China has these hypersonic missiles that are so fast you can't even see them. So I guess at any moment an explosion could happen somewhere, and we don't need to figure out where it. We don't even need to worry about having video anymore. No more where there'd be, the camera picked up the missile, because things are just going to explode with these hypersonic missiles. That's interesting. And we already know that the only place that's making them is China. And Chinese people right now are in Iran. So how convenient. If there happens to be any false flags, I guess, things blowing up, we can just say, well, I guess it was China. With the drug overdose epidemic, much has been said that China manufactures fentanyl, and fentanyl is a pure synthetic, which is more deadly than what you could get from the plant. And only China makes this, right? Because it's so deadly. Now, when it comes to shipping fentanyl, most fentanyl isn't shipped from China to other places because I guess it's deadly or difficult to ship. So instead, most fentanyl is shipped from India. So while we have this fatal drug overdose epidemic happening, all right, from products which are opiates, we have to believe that the main source of opium, which is Afghanistan, it needs to not be considered the primary source of the overdoses. Instead, it's a synthetic compound which is made in China, but then China decides to ship it over the Himalaya mountains to India and then out of port of India. And it's not India's fault, and it's not Afghanistan's fault, it's China's fault. Now, that may be 100% true. I can't prove it's not true, but sometimes you can just look at the case that's being made, and you can just analyze that that scenario as I just described it. Just on face value, just look at the narrative and think, right? Because evidence is being used to encourage people not to think anymore. And this is one of the evils of social media, online media. There's so much evidence that look, this is what's happening. Here's all this evidence. But just think about it. Like, wait, so I'm supposed to believe that there's no way that these drug overdoses and these fatalities have anything to do with the possibility of taking opium and refining it further in India and Afghanistan, which already, by the way, has access to where most of the opium comes from. I need to just ignore that. Just ignore it. And accept the fact that instead it's made purely synthetically, only in China, who then sends it to the United States from ports in India after having shipped it over the Himalayan mountains. And we should only blame China for the fatal drug overdose epidemic. Now, it's possible. I'm not a chemist, but you just say it, and it's like, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And if China is so dependent upon manufacturing exports for capital, why would it kill Americans? It doesn't make any sense at all. There is no benefit. There's no win. So, analysis is very powerful, and I encourage more people to just look at the narratives, okay? You don't even need to, factor in all, put aside digging up evidence and just look at the narratives and just think about it. That just doesn't make sense. It could be true. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, though, for that to be the case. It's a silly narrative. And I reviewed several other ones the other day that they just didn't make any sense at all. Maduro wasn't the elected president. He lost the election. So there was Maduro. Yeah, Maduro, thank you. Good to have you here, Vilma. Maduro was also a follower of this more eclectic Indian religion, where the god of the religion was a man named Satya Sai Baba, or that's actually a religious title, and other people such as Princess or the Duchess Ferguson, the ex-wife of Prince Andrew in England, she was a follower of this. So there's multiple people who followed these more. And good for them, right? Look, if someone can find someone spiritual that enriches their life, causes them to be better people, better their community. I'm not going to be religious here. I'm not going to be preachy, but if you can find that type of peace, even if it's the faith that I wish people would go towards, good. It's a good start. All right. So I'm not against it, but again, it's another curious connection. And another follower of many of the Hindu religions is the Jesse Jackson family, who and Michael Jackson as well. So that's their choice, but why not factor these things in? There has to be a reason why these collection of countries seem to all be involved in whatever the United States government is allegedly tackling right now. I don't fully understand it. I'm trying to find a few patterns, and I'm also trying to find a way to be able to say, okay, so how do I go from this, to turning it into what I've been covering in my other programs, and then further building on it. It's not really clear right now. You get attacked every time you mention India, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't. There are major powers. Oh, by the way, yesterday or the day before, Joe Rogan had on a very interesting guest on his show. Allow me to pop that up here. I'm not in any particular hurry this morning, although I do have a big construction project I'm in the middle of here. Let's downsize that a little bit. Let me go over to YouTube and let's search for the Joe Rogan show. So yesterday, Joe Rogan had on a guest named Priyanka Chopra Jonas, who I guess is a movie director. You can tell she's an Indian woman, very beautiful woman, and in this interview, which was just yesterday, it was just posted 20 hours ago. They talked about how, first of all, India is the oldest civilization. It's the wisest. They can speak more languages. It's the most peaceful. They never invaded other countries. Indian scientists have put forward ideas about flight going back thousands of years. And then Joe Rogan even got into talking about the moons. He talked about evolution. He's talked about seeding of life on planets. He was talking about panspermia. He was talking about the origins of life. And she's like, "Ooh, that's very interesting." In this one episode, it was I almost want to call it a Rogatonic Live. It was a review of my last several weeks of work without ever mentioning major names also, and Joe Rogan is like, wow, dude, oh, wow, oh, yeah. I mean, you thought he would almost be doing something sexual. He's oohing and eyeing and, oh, yeah, baby, so much. But he's just basically worshiping this guest. And it's a pretty impressive show. Oh, and it starts off, I think the first minute is the funniest minute of the show. Just listen to the way Joe Rogan starts this podcast off with Priyanka Chopra Jonas, and it's possible that she's even related to the Deepak Chopra, who was the spiritual and mental health counselor for Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know that. I'm just throwing that one out there.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
I won't lie, I am nervous to talk to you.
Come on.
Just slightly.
How can you be nervous? That's ridiculous.
Like, I came in slightly intimidated.
Why?
I actually don't know the answer to that because we've never met.
Yeah.
So it's not like you've intimidated me, but I'm really, I think what I really enjoy about your show is just such an eclectic perspective on so many diverse things, and it comes like so naturally to you. I really admire that.
Well, fortunately, I don't have anybody pick my guests, so
Right.
It's all people that I'm actually interested in talking to, so it's easy.
He doesn't have anybody picks his guests. Joe Rogan says he is totally in control. He just does what he wants. Nobody tells him what to do, what to say. He's in total control. So we are at the 48 seconds in, which includes the stupid head spinner. It includes her saying she's intimidated. So right off the bat, he says the lie. Everything after that, okay, you're talking about you build knowledge. You have to build your knowledge on solid ground. Like I did the logic puzzle the other day, which, by the way, I fully solved and I got right, 100% right. You have to start off with 100% certainties. Now, that doesn't mean that everything that you conclude afterwards, if you build on things which are not true, are wrong, but they could be wrong. And there will be mistakes. The bottom assertion, step one, he's independent. He is anything but independent. Now, that's not to say that everything he says is going to be wrong, but everything that you lean on for the entire rest of the 2 hour and 25 minutes and 8 seconds could be wrong. Some of it will be wrong because it's going to be based on the assumption that he is independent. Underlying assumptions are so important. Sometimes they're stated, sometimes they're not. He's a controlled actor. I don't hate him just for that, But people should know the Joe Rogan Experience is a Joe Rogan show about a character named Joe Rogan who is playing himself a little bit. All right, he's in real life. He's not 100% like this, but he's close. But not 100%. But people believe that they're watching a real person who is genuinely independent, and they're making assumptions. They're having takeaways after watching the Joe Rogan show, believing he's totally independent. And first of all, why even say that? Why would he say that? If I had a guest on my program, all right, whoever it was, the first thing I would say is, thank you for being on my show. Hey, everyone, great news. Our guest today is this person here. I'd give an introduction. I'd say, I haven't interviewed someone in a while. I didn't work out in the past or something like that. I would not say, hey, everyone, I have a guest today, just to let you know Nobody tells me what to do, and I only talk to guests that I want to. Why would I ever say such a thing? Why would I start off a show? You know what? I just want to let you know that I want to let you know that I always tell the truth about Trump. Why would I say that? There shouldn't be any reason to say that. Should that just be, first of all, an assumption? Okay, but to ever need to clarify that is absurd. So he must be clarifying it. Why is it even on his mind to say that? And you know what? So what if she's there because someone told him? As a matter of fact, I would expect him to have some guests that people suggest, or that people who write his checks suggest. I would expect that. And he could say, hey, you know what? You have a movie out, because I guess she's a movie director. A pirate movie. It's getting some good reviews. Matter of fact, I watched it. I didn't know about it. And good choice. I'm glad that we're hooked up. I'm glad you're here today. That one sentence. Anyways, you could watch the rest. But he's Rogatonic Live. Okay, you can just hear about all the stuff that I've been mentioning. Except now it's coming out through Joe Rogan's mouth, and Joe Rogan is definitely not being told by anyone else what to do or who to influence, and he's worshiping everything she says and then injecting all of his own ideas into it. It really is quite an experience. I can't even listen to it more than 3 minutes without taking my headphones off and go, okay, I've had enough. Take a break, and then after 5 or 10 minutes, I'll put the headphones back on. I'll listen to another 3 minutes. Okay, enough. Put the headphones down. So this is one program you could watch. It's amazing. It came out yesterday. Rogatonic Live, or Joe Rogan Experience, episode 2464 with Priyanka Chopra Jonas. What I'm going to do, you know what? I'm going to copy that link, and I'm going to put it into my chat here on so you guys can watch it. Ignore the timestamp. I accidentally entered the timestamp as starting at 3,000 seconds in. Just go up to the beginning. Okay. Let's see here. Tazik. Aren't all podcasters independent? They're not. And what's nefarious, you know this, Tazik. You've heard it before. You've heard Jonathan has articulated better than myself. Is the evil of the podcast is that it is suggested that it is somehow organic and independent. That's the evil of the podcast. When you watch the news, you see people who are professional lighting, beautiful dress, or outfit, suit, tie, all the stars and the stripes and the maps. Everything looks so official and clean and businesslike, and you're watching a show when you watch the mainstream news. You know it. You know now that it's a show more than you've ever known it before, but also know it's a professional production. They have advertisers. Herb Chambers Honda they want you to buy a car, and there's going to be paper towels, and there's going to be a medical commercial, and it's fake. They're going to promote, one party over the other. You know it. But when you watch the podcast, you see someone, with their bed behind them, or some, fake weathered wood that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot, with an illuminated sign. You think, wow, this is someone who's independent. And if they're independent, then they're real. They're a real person. I should listen to them. They're a real person now. And Joe Rogan, no one tells me what to watch. And Tucker Carlson, I'm independent. I had to leave Fox News. I'm independent. So people are more likely to believe and accept the podcast. So the podcast can be personalized. So people will have their own, prejudices validated, their own or validated. They'll be opening up a lot faster because it's going to match what they are already predisposed to wanting to hear. And they're going to think that it's more real because they're going to see a bedroom. And in fact, they try to find that sweet spot, like the Candace Owens sweet spot, where it looks like she's in a house, but she's really in a studio that it takes several people to construct and clean up and operate in a large home. So it's not really an independent thing. It's a production that's paid for by the machine itself, but it looks real. You see a cabinet in the background, a flower, a couple books, a strewn, a CIA mug. So that's the deception of the podcast. I won't ever tell you. No one tells me what. I mean, I think it should be pretty obvious by now. No one tells me what to say. Tucker's Cracker Barrel Studio, exactly right. With all the gimmicks. The snowshoes. I don't even know what's on there, but I could guess, right? You can make a guess. There's probably snowshoes, a couple of hand planers. There's probably a Coca-Cola sign, some old beer bottles, maybe a box of cigars, everything, a bear trap, everything that you would expect in a cheap, fake, rustic cabin in a Cracker Barrel, you'll see in the background of the Joe Rogan show. It's so pretentious. It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. Hello, Giggum. Holy random Honda. Well, Herb Chambers is just a local guy. Yeah. Everyone's got their local guy. Hello. I don't even know how to pronounce that. I just want to assure everyone that I only comment when the tiny little voice inside my head gives me the okay. Okay. That's good. I'm just going to go back a little bit here. Hey, Jay, good to have you here. Her whole intro is ridiculous. She's going in front of an audience of millions. They improvise. Something stupid came out. The best of this type of actor are usually just being themselves and lying about their knowledge of the stage and lights and shifting scenery. You know what? I'm going to play a video clip of I've shown this one to a few people so far. I may even post this one independently here. It is Norm McDonald on Trump. Okay, it's a video short. Norm McDonald talking about Trump. Now, Norm McDonald died in 2021. He was only he might have made it to in his late 50s, I think. I'm not sure he made it to age 60. Norm McDonald is known as a comics comic. He is the next level comic. He didn't really hit that stride until probably around age 40 or so. And, I think he struggled with several things. Gambling, of course, being one of them. He's certainly not the perfect person, but he had, as a profession, as a stand-up comic, I think Norm McDonald has the most sophisticated, dead-on balls accurate understanding of what you see right now on the stage. I think Norm McDonald understands it better than Roseanne Barr does. And Norm McDonald here is in a 10-minute interview that happened, I think, around 2017 or 18 or so. Norm McDonald's going to say something about Trump that very few people understand. Okay? If you're watching this channel right now, or if you're watching Jonathan's channel, I want to remind you, there's only a few thousand people in the world that understand this concept. Most podcasters do not understand what Norm is about to say. In fact, most politicians don't understand what Norm is about to say. They don't. I'm only recently coming to understand it. I thought I understood what Norm was about to say here a year or two ago. But only recently did I fully understand what Norm is about to say in this clip, okay? So
Trump oftentimes is doing self-parody, and nothing looks dumber than if you parody self-parody. You really get caught not understanding.
So comedy in the time of Trump, is it more difficult than it was when you were on Saturday Night Live?
It's more difficult in the time of Trump for good comedians, and it's way easier for bad comedians. You don't have a worldview by just saying you don't like Trump. You know what I mean? That doesn't count. Like you can't just say I hate Trump, and that makes you a good person. And the Democrats just can't say I hate Trump, and that means they have a position. That's no position. So for idiots, it's an easier time because you go, well, that guy's the idiot, not me. But if you try to do smart comedy, stay away from Trump.
So the point, he's saying Trump is doing self-parody, meaning Trump knows he's acting. Trump himself knows that he's acting. Trump has evolved. Trump created this character. I don't think it was planned. I think it kind of happened, okay, of being a little bit silly, a little bit off. He wanted the spotlight, but he's also a little bit, I want to say quirky, but he's sort of like the rich guy in the trailer park approach. There's something always a little bit weird about Trump, and Trump, as this evolved, either through mistakes or he was just having some fun, Trump became this character, okay? And Trump understands that when he's talking, he is playing a character. And when President Trump also realizes that he is making a parody of his character. He isn't just improvising on stage, okay? He isn't just he actually mocks himself in a way that when other people then make fun of that, they're making fun of Trump making fun of Trump, and it doesn't make any sense. So the people who hit hard on Trump as saying stupid things really fall into a trap. Now, Norm then goes on to he elaborates about how people saying that they're anti-Trump, that doesn't make them good. Yeah, I get it, but that's the reason why that's a powerful assessment, though, is because it's not because that people are just against Trump. It's they're actually taking a position that someone that the parody itself is the bad thing. So there is a real person named Donald Trump, who there is a caricature of that person, and then Trump does a parody of the caricature. So people get enraged about this, they're actually enraged. It's like being mad at someone playing a role in a comedy movie. It's very confusing, but very few people can understand this. Very few people, and I think Trump Norm was able to really see it. And this video clip sometimes gets viewed or promoted as a way of suggesting that Norm was pro-Trump. It's not Norm saying he's pro-Trump. It's Norm trying to help people see that Trump is parodying a character that evolved. So if people were to attack that, it's nonsensical. That's what Norm is saying here. Okay. And he's also acknowledging that the lack of attack of Trump in some ways makes more sense, okay, then saying Trump is bad. Simply because saying Trump is bad, there's so many levels of indirection and mockery already happening that's even more absurd. That's even more imprecise than saying nothing. That's what he's trying to say here. And it's dead on. It's dead on accurate. It is dead on accurate. Norm was mostly, for the most part, non-political. All right, that's not why he made this clip. Did I capture that right, Jay? What do you think about that assessment there? This is not Norm saying Trump is good. It's highlighting the ludicrousy of trying to assess what Trump is saying and people's interactions with him. I'll play it one more time because I think it's definitely worth hearing.
Trump oftentimes is doing self-parody, and nothing looks dumber than if you parody self-parody. You really get caught not understanding.
So comedy in the time of Trump, is it more difficult than it was when you were on Saturday Night Live?
It's more difficult in the time of Trump for good comedians, and it's way easier for bad comedians. You don't have a worldview by just saying you don't like Trump. You know what I mean? That doesn't count. Like you can't just say I hate Trump, and that makes you a good person. And the Democrats just can't say I hate Trump, and that means they have a position. That's no position. So for idiots, it's an easier time because you go, well, that guy's the idiot, not me. But if you try to do smart comedy, stay away from Trump. So,
now, there's another video I bumped into this morning. Let's see here if I go down my oops. Where's my get to see my video list, huh? You never know what it's going to feed me each day here. This is, oh my God, Pete Holmes, okay, who is an interesting comedian. I wouldn't say Pete Holmes is quite at the same level of Norm, but he's evolving. He's an interesting person, okay. He gets a decent amount of spotlight. He's in the machine, but he says something interesting here about metaphors.
There are some truths so big they can only be told with lies. That's a cute way of saying metaphor is the only language we have to speak of God. Metaphor means always true, sometimes really happened. Because what's interesting about the Bible, one of the weird things about that text is that it's metaphor overlain with history. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like metaphorized history, and we don't know where the line is. Opinions vary. But when you're trying to talk about the ineffable, metaphor isn't just as close as you can get. It's the only way to do it. It stirs you and moves you in a way that the truth of it is it's true in the way that energy moves in the world. It's true in the way the patterns of the universe are reflected in the story. Because you can tell a story and it's bullshit, but the metaphors and the myths that stick with us, they'll rock you.
And it's not about solving the mystery.
No!
It's about appreciating the fact that it is a mystery.
And we want to talk about it. And more than that, we want to commune with it. And to know that, we have to give it some sort of symbol. Carl Jung says we're not transformed by ideas. We're transformed by symbols.
I'm not much of a Jungian, but the it is. I arrived here because there is so little, especially regarding this conflict at the round, like what the hell is going on here? Okay. And we have Trump, who, as Norm had well articulated, he's doing a person doing self-parody of a character loosely based upon himself. saying we are at war because Iran is evil and they have nukes. Well, I don't believe in nukes, so where does that leave me? So we have people doing self-parody of characters communicating metaphorically about what the hell is happening in the world right now and where our threats are. There's a big gap. There's a big gap between what most people right now are thinking and worried about and arguing about versus what's actually going on. There's a huge gap. I can't even see the other side of it right now. But wow. And I'm not going to pretend that, here's all the answer. I don't know. I can only stay grounded and say it doesn't make any sense that in a country of 300-something million people, the United States, over this last 10, 12 years, in this drug epidemic that's taken effectively 1 million lives, and the last several years, the rate of 1 out of every 30 deaths of all ages, all reasons, has been a person under 40 of a drug overdose, that it can't get any visibility. It just doesn't make any sense. Why can't that even just get a day? No one will even hear about it. But now, with absolute precision, we need to talk about specific things happening in this military conflict. So, Trump adjusting a chair to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu was hilarious. Yeah, well, thank you, Tazik, for bringing that one up. Why did he even do that? Has Trump ever done that to anybody else? I'm glad you brought that one up, Tazik. If there was a great big conspiracy, all right, where Israel was secretly running the United States of America, if you wanted to keep that a secret, the last thing you would do is when the Prime Minister of Israel is in the United States, okay, you, as the president, make sure that their chair is properly positioned. And he does it on camera. It was almost like, hey, everyone, I want you to see me doing this right now. I want you to see me doing this. Is this on camera? Did I look in all the right directions so people can see me doing this right now? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, did Trump adjust the chair? Yeah, but it must have been done intentionally. It just doesn't make any sense otherwise. And why exactly it was done? Well, I don't know. But that's a great example, Tazik, of people being encouraged to accept the evidence for the simplest face value explanation. Oh, Trump adjusted the chair. That means that the United States is controlled by Israel through Epstein via kitty photos. Evidence. That's it. That's you have to accept all these other things because of that piece of evidence. It's like President Clinton in a hot tub with a girl getting into the hot tub. You need to accept that President Trump is involved in trafficking children, rape, molestation, and even cannibalism, because here's a photo of Trump in a tub and a woman getting into the tub. I mean, what's next? Here's a photo. What's next? Here's a photo of Jay next to a Maserati. Well, I know Jay can't buy a Maserati. So if there's a picture of Jay next to a Maserati, that means that Jay obviously is carjacking people, shooting them, and then killing people with drunk driving because there's a picture of Jay next to a Maserati. The things that people are encouraged to conclude based upon one simple piece of evidence is absurd. Sorry, Jay, about that. Imagine if we elected Andrew Dice Clay, people believed his press conferences. Yeah, Jay said something brilliant the other day about a Senate is the official podcast. Senate is the official podcast of the U.S. government. You can watch it on C-SPAN. It's recorded. It's a show that's put on for people. When the show is put on, it's valuable. And every once in a while, things go off script a little bit. There's value, okay? But it's definitely a show that's put on to prime people for certain things happening. Senate, the podcast, Senate.live, whatever you want to call it, Congress.live, okay? They have these Senate hearings, which are not even real. They're real, but they don't vote on anything. They merely put witnesses and ideas and conflicts in front of people. Inflammatory provocation is a big part of the script, yes. And they have fake arguments. Sometimes some things slip through. All right, I think there are some different worldviews. Sometimes the controversy is staged. A lot of times it is. Like, arguments between Bernie Sanders and RFK Jr. about vaccines. I'm sure most of that was staged. Many of these things are staged, scripted. Unfortunately, I think today, not today specifically, but more recently over the last few years, the amount of times that one of the Senate.live shows goes off script is minimal. I suspect it happened more in the past. I think it started off probably with like, okay, we're going to broadcast these options, cable news, all right, it came out, and people are like, wow, I could actually watch what's happening in federal government. And that was fascinating to some people. There was a role for C-SPAN. Of course, they weren't going to say things publicly that they didn't want people to hear. But it became more and more clear that it was a show being put on to influence what people thought, people heard, and so on. It's become more sophisticated and advanced over time. You can find some moments, like back in the 1990s, where there was real disagreement about some things. But you know what? They handled it way more professionally. No F-bombs, no cursing. People still respectful. They weren't throwing things. But you could sense that sometimes things, some things were being flushed out. Let's see here. Hello. Norm was enlightened. Yeah, thank you. I think that's well said. Yeah, Norm was enlightened. And again, please, I don't believe Norm was pro-Trump. He might have been, all right? I think Norm understood how Trump operated. I think Norm understood. That's what Norm was highlighting here. I'm not sure Norm was political. That would be the wrong takeaway. Norm was highlighting. Norm probably appreciated that Trump was highlighting. I think Norm probably thought it was cool that Trump himself was enlightened enough to understand that Trump was doing a parody of Trump. So I think I think Norm might have thought, person to person, like, wow, Trump, and Trump can be funny, okay, but Trump was doing a parody. So in a way, this enlightened comedian, I think, had an appreciation for Trump as a comedian, not as a leader, not as someone who wrote great policy. And Trump understood that most of the reasons why when people try to attack Trump, especially other comedians, they look terrible. They don't get it. They don't get it. There's not many other comedians there's one young comedian who I've been watching lately who I think understands that Trump is doing self-parody, okay? and has a way of being able to highlight it in a show without getting caught up and criticizing it. I think he is actually showing that he understands that Trump is doing self-parody. So he's not making fun of that. He's just making fun of the fact that it's funny and highlights sometimes that it's crazy that some people get mad at that. Like there were some people that encouraged, protesting against the U.S. Olympic team or something like that. And I didn't watch the Winter Olympics. But some people really got wrapped up in that. They were really upset at the U.S. Olympic team because Trump is president. And this comedian was like, it's not like Trump is in the Olympics. What are you doing? These are other Americans on the ice. It's like, okay, I get it. I know you're mad at ice, but not that ice. Anyways. So, I think I just got a message that I'm gonna have to quiet down because we have meetings in the house here. Yeah. One of the things that I'm doing is as part of the construction in my room, I have the other half of my room here torn up. Is a lot of sound insulation needs to be added. This being a 1990s house is, the materials tend to echo a lot of noise. So, and there's the floor issue. But anyways, wow, so that's been almost 2 hours. I was not expected. I had nothing to talk about other than the fact that Iran. I have no idea what's happening in Iran. So I got to get to work, guys. I hope you don't mind. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thank you for supporting and understanding of this little phase I'm going through right now of and I know it's wrong. The U.S. going into war, but feeling indifferent at a time of going into war when people are dying is it's. I know it's not right. How do I reckon? How do I work through this? I think getting back to making for the summer event, which I've been on pause about, again for other budgetary reasons on my own side. I'm going to get that addressed soon. Now I had some things I needed to work through, so thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks you for the support. Turn off. Trust me, you can turn off the social media. You will be happier. Take breaks. Listen to some music. There's almost nothing that's going to come out on any particular day that you have to listen to that day. I think breaks right now are good. Some distance is good. And I don't know. I don't have a big, long summary. I think that's enough. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care. God bless. And I think I'm just going to upload this one as is, leave it online for a little while. I don't know how much long-term value this show has, but it's a good update video. Thank you. Take care. God bless. And I will see you guys tomorrow or later today.